You were a law student in Australia. How did you go from law to comedy?
My first stand-up experience was at my university campus comedy competition. And I did 5 minutes and then I won that competition. That was my very first experience, winning a competition. And I thought it was awesome. And then I wanted to do comedy outside of a school environment because school environments are very safe and when all your friends are there. I didn't want to open a shop where the only people who bought stuff was like my friends and family. I wanted to be like doing comedy to the public, in fact to the hostile public who hates you. And I definitely got my dose of that.
How do you identify yourself when someone asks you where you're from?
I'll say, oh, I'm Malaysian, but I spent 10 years in Australia. That's the simple answer. Spent 10 years in Singapore before that. Yeah, it's complicated, but it's also not complicated. Like once you say it out loud, it's fine. I will say though, I think in America they can't. I think it's tough for them to understand like you're Chinese, but you're from Malaysia. And you live in Singapore, and then you were in Australia for like 10 years, and then now you're in America. Can we just call you Asian?
How did you get recruited into The Daily Show?
I got invited to Just for Laughs Festival, and I did a show with a handsome young gentleman known as Trevor Noah. It was the Eddie Izzat Gala. I did 10 minutes of comedy. He saw my set, he really liked it, and we didn't speak for 2 years after that. We didn't exchange numbers, we didn't exchange emails, did not hear from him for 2 years until 2015. I get an email on my website asking me if I wanted to audition for The Daily Show. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I auditioned for it. I sent in a self-tape. And then they asked me to come to New York for an in-studio audition. And I happened to be passing through New York. I stopped by, did a live interview in studio. And then about 3 weeks later, they said they would like to hire me on the show.
Your clip in response to the Waters Chinatown video from the Bill O'Reilly show has gone pretty viral on YouTube.
Hey, Trevor, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the internet or TV, but if you are, you've probably seen this that happened a few days ago on Fox News. So the story popped up midway through an afternoon, so we didn't have time to respond to it for that evening show. So we just brainstormed on it, and then we met up again in the morning. And then we decided to really tackle it and how we were going to do it. Before 11 a.m., we spent 2 hours figuring out what we're going to do. The angle, the take, how we wanted to cover this story. And then we decided we should go down to Chinatown and speak to Chinese people in Chinese. I was worried that we wouldn't get anyone to speak on camera about what we were talking about. But turns out that wasn't an issue at all. People were like lining up. They gave very eloquent responses to my questions and the issues at hand. We filmed our interviews. We went back at about 2 p.m. and keep in mind the show starts at 6:30 p.m. as in that's when we start taping. So we had 4.5 hours to edit it and write it, and translate it. There's no one in the building who can translate Chinese, so I had to do the translations. It wasn't just me. Honestly, I feel like I probably did the least in the whole thing. The Daily Show team, the producers, the editors, the executive producers, the writers, Trevor Noah, they all had a lot of input in how the story was going to go out. And so it's a real team thing. Everyone who was in the video as well, all the people we interviewed, I feel like I probably, all I did was stand there and like hold a microphone, I think. So shout out to all those people doing most of the work.
You've talked a little bit about the reaction that you've been getting from your audience since the Chinatown clip aired on the day.
Yeah, got lots of responses on social media. I didn't expect as many thank yous as I got, and one of the thank yous I got was from this Asian American guy from Seattle, and he said, thanks for doing this, because when I was growing up in America, the people who were most racist to me or made me feel uncomfortable, it wasn't the stereotypical southern racist KKK member, it was the upper middle class, white guy, preppy, pop collar dude, which kind of is embodied by Jesse Waters. And it wasn't the outright overt racism. That's not how we usually experience most racism. The overt racism is the ones which are like, oh, that's crazy, but we kind of laugh it off. It's the nudging. It's that, every day just a little bit like, we're just joking. What? Asian people like that, whatever. Speaking of that that jockey kind of, it's fine, whatever. Don't, you know, that's the stuff that hardly gets called out on. So I'm glad that in this video, Jesse Waters kind of embodied that kind of, yeah, we're just joking around, whatever. And we got to call him out. What I find funny about the Jesse Waters piece is that the stereotype that he made look the worst was white people. That he made white people look terrible in that, because not all white people are like that. In fact, he's probably the only one who thinks like that, or would think like that. And I think the fact that the video spread so quickly, his original video spread so quickly, is kind of proof of that, because everyone was so outraged by it. As a comedian, I can understand trying to push boundaries, and I can understand when a joke doesn't work. I can understand trying and not succeeding with a comedy bit. So I guess I can give him some sympathy from that point of view. But as an Asian person, I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Like, it was, forget the comedy part of it. It was just like outdated stereotypes from like the 30s and 40s. Him in particular, the reason why I think he's different to other comics is that he didn't say something out of context. This wasn't a one-off. He's done pieces like this before. I think he did one about homeless people that was the same kind of feeling, just punching down on the less fortunate. And he has priors. So it's like, yeah, fuck this guy, let's go after him.
There's an ABC Australia comedy show called International Student that's been pretty popular as a pilot in that country. I've heard that it's coming here to the US next year.
What has been officially announced is that it's an Australian series, got picked up by the ABC in Australia, not to be confused with the ABC in America. Okay. And it's being co-produced by Comedy Central in America. So presumably it will air in America. But I just don't have the details yet because it wasn't.
Are you in it?
Yeah, I'm co-writing it and I'm starring in it. So.
It's called International Student.
Ronny Chieng Comedy Vehicle.
2012, 2014, on and on. You just kept dominating all these festivals,
Just
and
dominating.
then at one point you went to Montreal.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you too.
Hi, Ronny Chieng. Like your work.
Hey, thanks, man.